You're listening to KGNU, Boulder, Denver, 88.5 FM and 1390 AM, or worldwide at kgnu.org. This is the Metro Show, and I'm Alisha B, the femme fatale on your radio dial. Hello, world. How you doing? I want to give a general salutation out to everybody, especially Eclipse fam. Shout out to my producer, Dave, because he's right here in the studio with me. Today, cash moves everything around me. Cream, get the money. Today we are going to talk about debt and how it affects you here on the Metro Show. As it happens, my name is Alisha B. I know you knew that already, but look, I'm saying it again, just in case you forgot. In my research this week, I looked up a lot of things having to do with minorities and debt. And I found that there's a lot of us who are, more affected by it than those of our counterparts who are not paying as high interest rates and such. In fact, the American Association of University Women says that the gender gap means that women spend larger portions of their earnings on repaying loans and having less money to put toward their living or other investments. 27% of black bachelor degree holders had more than $30,500 in loans, compared with 16% of white bachelor degree holders. More black students who left without graduating and finishing a degree cited debt as the reason for their leaving, as their white peers, 69% versus 43%. And 74% of Latinos who opted out of attending college cited finance as their reason for not finishing. So, this also we can talk about debt as it pertains to credit card and mortgage. The average credit card debt in an American home is $15,112. The average mortgage debt is $146,000. And the average student loan is $31,240. That's a lot of numbers. Which means basically we're spending a lot of our income on repaying our debt. We Americans as a whole are about $11.08 trillion in debt, which can be accounted for $846 billion in credit card, $7.75 trillion in mortgages, and it says $1,002 billion in student loans, which is 10% up from last year. I got a lot of this information from the Fed, and to help me hash some of this out, so I'm not just flashing numbers at you, I have Amy Fidelis, and she is the Marketing and Education Director at Mpower. Now, just in case you didn't know, Mpower is a nonprofit organization whose goal or whose mission is to empower individuals and families to think and feel about differently about their money. How you doing, Amy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
That was a lot of stuff I said.
It's good context, but it is a lot of numbers.
That's basically, I get that we owe some people money.
We do. A lot of us owe a lot of people.
Welcome to the Met. Tell me how we can kind of curb this debt consumption that we're currently consuming.
Yeah, you're talking about creating a movement, right? I mean, really changing. That's why we have the mission statement about changing the way people think, act, and feel, or helping them to think, act, and feel differently, because we need to do something differently. Debt creates this burden. It creates stress. We know it impacts other areas of your family and your life when you're carrying that around. And we as a nonprofit want to help people to live differently. And so I'm really excited to have this dialogue. Let's figure it out.
All right.
Let's see where we go.
All right. So I was on your website, and it talked a lot about informed financial decision making. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
That's a good question.
What does that mean? Does that mean I have to stop spending money?
No, it doesn't.
Good, because I'm really good at it. I'm really good at spending money.
Excellent. Then you're our ideal client.
Yes.
No, it doesn't mean you have to stop spending money. It does mean you need to spend it consciously, and you need to know why you're doing it.
No more just random boots, huh?
You can, but, then you got to pay the piper. If you don't want to pay the piper, you got to look at it differently. So yeah, when we say informed financial decisions, what we're talking about is really, do you understand how the game is played? Do you understand the rules? Do you...
How do you find a good loan that's not taking advantage of you?
Exactly. Do you know what interest rates should be at? Do you know what a good credit score is? Do you know how much money you're making versus how much you're spending? Just informing yourself first on your own situation and then on the bigger market.
That makes sense. So like I said, we have, especially as, like, say, a woman, when this glass ceiling concept is still a real thing. I'm still making, I think I read that annually I'm making anywhere between $7,000 and $15,000 less than my male counterparts, in theory. Mm-hmm. Help me with some how I can spend my money wiser and be able to reinvest in myself in a good way so I can, be without this large school debt, but still be able to buy those shoes that I was just talking about.
Still get the boots. Well, we've identified your goal, which is good. That's where we want to start, right? So you want to start with what do you want to do, and then you move forward into that. So if you're not going to be able to make up that pay gap, then you got to know your own numbers, and you just got to be realistic with it. And then I would also say you got to know what your credit report looks like. You got to know your score so that if you do need to finance something, you're going to get it at a lower rate. There are student loan repayment programs you can access. There are different tools depending on the type of debt. But you've got to start with your own personal situation and know what your numbers are.
Okay. So with this debt settlement, I see a lot of commercials during some of my favorite daytime shows about how we can, get my debt down by condensing it all and having some guy on TV help me get everything paid for.
Yeah.
Something tells me that if it's in that time frame, I should be sort of more conscious of what
a little wary.
What kind of business that may be. Help me out.
Yeah, so we throw around a lot of terms, and it's helpful to know what they actually mean, and because different people use them differently. So when we're talking settlement, that's usually a for-profit company that says, hey, come here, give me some of your money. We'll negotiate with creditors for you, but only one at a time, and then we'll only pay a certain portion of your overall debt. So what you do is you can settle the debt, but you don't end up paying what you originally owed. And that can be a problem for you for your credit and for tax reasons later on down the road. So that's one option. There are other options for dealing with debt depending on the type.
Okay. Interesting. So let's say I have this payment that I need to make on said large debt. Mm-hmm. There comes a time in the month where I know that I'm not going to be able to make that payment. Mm-hmm. What do I do? Yeah,
it's always a good idea, and people don't like this thought, but you got to talk to your creditors. You got to call the company that you owe, and you got to say, hey, I'm having a hard time.
Sally, I'm having a hard time.
Student loan's a whole other issue. However, there are, if you have a federal student loan, you can get into certain different repayment programs. So with the lender, think about it.
Okay.
Would you give me $500? We just met. You don't really know me, right? And now I'm supposed to pay you by tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, I don't pay you, right?
Right.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I'm still not paying you. And then I finally get around to telling you, I'll get you your money. How angry have you become with me in that process?
Fairly angry. I probably sent some people to your house. I'm calling you a lot.
Some people, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So put yourself in the shoes of the creditor. Would you want to hear from the debtor sooner or later? Probably sooner, so you can work something out. And then you, as the debtor, you get to have a plan, and you can focus, and you can move forward. It also does depend on the type of debt. So if we're talking student loans, you might be talking to your servicer about payment options. If we're talking credit cards, you want to talk to a nonprofit like us that can reduce your interest rates and get you on a debt management plan. Mortgage loans, you want to talk to the mortgage company. Maybe you want to look at housing counseling. Auto loan, you want to talk to the lender of the auto loan. So it really does depend what type of loan it is.
Okay, so let's get back to this credit score thing, right? So I've called my debtor, and I said, hey, I'm not going to be able to make this payment. They're going to be like, okay, so we have you on this plan, but there's probably some fees and things associated with that, yeah?
Could be. It depends on the creditor. So that's another reason, before you get into debt, really choose wisely who you're going to do business with, because when you get in trouble, you want someone you can work with.
Okay, so let's... I'm keeping the thing of things I should be taking from this conversation. So definitely know what kind of loans you're getting into, right? Read that fine print before you sign it, right? Be in contact with them.
Yep. If there are any problems,
if there's any kind of problems, and if I'm going to be in contact with them, I should know about the company. So do your research on who you're taking money from.
Exactly.
Who did you sign your soul over to today?
Exactly.
That seems pretty important. Okay, cool. What was that last one? We needed to make contact.
Well, it depends on what stage you're at, right? So you want to research before you get the debt.
Right.
Once you have the debt, you want to understand all the terms and fees that you've got going on.
Okay.
When you're in trouble, you want to contact them at the very first sign of trouble.
Okay.
And then the tag-on question related to that is, are there extra fees and costs associated with any plan that you might work out once you're in trouble?
Okay. All right, cool. I'm in collections.
Yep.
And they still want their money once you're in collection. That doesn't mean you have to stop paying. I mean, that means you didn't
disappear.
That means you didn't pay for it, and they still want their money. So I begin to pay off in collections. Yeah. There's already a host of things that happen. Like my credit score probably got way down because I didn't pay that initial debt. And how does that affect me? What does that mean for me down the road?
So, when we're talking about credit, it impacts you in your future purchases and big purchase decisions, but it can also affect other things like housing, security clearance in the military, insurance premiums, that sort of stuff. Okay. So we want to never have a debt go to collections. And then now I'll talk about reality. So we know that the debt's in collections, okay? So what has happened is 35% of your credit score is made up of your payment history. So you've knocked your credit down because you haven't paid on time on that original, if it were a loan and reporting all the time, let's say. Okay. Right. Now it goes to collections. Now you've got to deal with the collection agency. If you're going to do that, you need to get all the information in writing. You can work out a plan with them, but you keep every piece of paper and contact. You keep a log, and you really make sure that you have a record of what's happened. Then when you've paid the item off, you go back to the credit bureau and you ask them to update that, or if the collection item stays on there and it's incorrect, you dispute that. You dispute that item. The problem is you see a lot of things in collections that weren't loans to begin with. So, maybe I have
an old phone bill,
for example,
from Ustream or whatever that communication company was,
or a Blockbuster account that went to collection. I mean, crazy stuff can show up on your credit report, and so that's why you really just want to make sure you're seeing that information, and then you deal with the items once you see what's on there.
Okay, so. Is there any such thing as credit score repair?
So again, we got to be careful about terms, right?
Okay,
so credit repair, as it is technically termed, is not something that you should necessarily be paying for to a for-profit company. You want to be careful that you're not engaging with a company that all they do is something you as the consumer can do on your own. So as a consumer, you can see your credit reports for free from annualcreditreport.com. You're entitled to one free report from them every 12 months. The score is not free. You would need to pay for that. But you can see your reports for free, and you can write what's called a dispute letter, where you write to the three bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and you say, this is why this item is incorrect, please remove it. They'll do an investigation. If it's accurate and verifiable information, it stays.
Which is why you need to go ahead and have that paper trail you were keeping when you start paying.
Exactly. And really, anytime you're talking to any kind of company, if it's medical bills, utilities, whatever, you really want to have a log of what happened. So that's one resource for dealing with your credit. You do have nonprofit resources like Mpower, and the city of Denver have partnered to offer financial empowerment centers through a grant from Bloomberg Philanthropies. Those are free centers in Denver embedded in nonprofits and city agencies, and you can get one